Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. And in this video, we're going to be looking at the fourth book in the Kathryn Lasky series, The Guardians of Ga'Hoole. So this is The Siege. So if you have not seen my introduction to this series, or the last previous 3 videos on this book series, stop here, go back, watch all of those. This will not make any sense. This is one of those book series where they're not situational. You have to read them in order, otherwise they do not make any sense. So let's look at this book. So what's going on here is you start off with kind of where you left off in the previous book with Soren's brother, who he had basically his face is burning because Soren put a coal in his metal mask there. So he dives into the water. He's rescued by a pilgrim owl, a fishing owl, who rescues him and nurses him back to health, only to be brutally murdered. Yeah, because of course Soren's brother, what is his name? Starting reading this book, the evilness of the older brother. Yes, find his name. Yes, where is it? Clud. So yes, Clud, who is obsessed with the pure ones, and that barn owls are the massive superior, and they're Nazis. Let's just put it this way, they're Nazis. In fact, the author thanks, there's battles in this, and she was inspired by Churchill during his speeches when they were during the Blitz. If you're not familiar with that, that's essentially when the Germans were bombing little living daylights out of England, primarily London, trying to force them into submission. But yes, the pure ones are owl versions of Nazis. They're obsessed with purity, and that barn owls are superior to everybody else, and they need to essentially conquer the world and get rid of everybody else and breed to create more of their perfect barn owl kind. So yes, this fishing owl, who is a pilgrim, he's part of a, I believe, a religious order that Soren's teacher had been previously part of, that he went to after he basically gave up fighting. And he nurses Clud back to health, bringing him food, rescuing him, and Clud, once he's strong enough, killed him. And that's always his intention. He's disgusted by this guy, by this other owl, and he's just essentially using him, and is basically dead set on, once he's better, he's going to kill him, and then he's going to get his army together to kill his brother and attack the gung-hole, basically the Great Hole Tree, and gain their knowledge. So that is the very beginning of this book. Then you go back to the tree, and the seniors know something is going on after, of course, the events of the last book. You had the teacher who would come back, and the battle to rescue him, and they're trying to get more information specifically on what these flecks do, and magnetism, which is a big scientific thing that was going on. And Soren and his friends, including, oddly enough, what is her name? Thankfully, they list the owls in the back of these books. I can never remember her name, let alone pronounce it. If I can find her, Odessa, I believe. Odessa is also nosing around. So she's joining them when they're essentially going under the tunnels and hiding under the roots of the tree and eavesdropping on the big meetings of the people in charge here. And they're arguing about trying to prevent the youngsters from learning about this, and specifically a very specific owl who I think was leaking in. It's kind of she has issues. She's one of the leaders. She has issues. See if I can find her name. Dewlap. So she's a burrowing owl. So she's in charge of protecting the tree. And she becomes a problem in this book. She's very protective. She doesn't want the younger owls getting information She's very suspicious. She's very old and very set in her ways. And she's being thwarted, specifically by the Elzebub. How do I pronounce his name? He was the one they rescued in the previous book. So, back to this. Never. Yes. Eliza Bib. I can't pronounce his name correctly. But she does not particularly like him. He wants the young owls to know everything. She does not. She becomes a problem later. So what ends up happening is then you go and you find out that the awareness of what happened with Cludd and this pilgrim was reported by an owl by the name of Miss. Now, it is later revealed that she is Hortense from book 1. She survived. She's changed, but she's survived. She's the Eagles rescue her. And she's now at a point where it's not that she's so much invisible as she's faded to the point that nobody really sees her. She's still alive. She's not dead. It's not like she's some sort of ghost, but she's very much blends into the background, and a lot of other owls just don't see that she exists. So she works kind of as a spy. She's still working with the Eagles. But she comes up later where she had witnessed this, and she lets them, the friends, know. So what ends up happening with them, how they interact with her, is the Owls Gung Ho are aware that they have to fight the Pure Ones. They're aware that both the Pure Ones and, of course, the owls at Saint, I can never pronounce it, wherever, Augustine, or Hindley, I think it's Augustine. Find this. But essentially where Soren and Griffey were taken. And they don't want these two combining because they have these flecks that are, you deal with magnetism, you can hypnotize people, essentially. So they don't want these guys getting together. So they send Baron, the leader owls, along with the seniors, know that Soren and his friends in the small group that had gone off to see the rogue smith have a certain set of skills when working together. And they see that this small group can basically infiltrate this school for orphaned owls and find things out. So they go in as spies, and they go there and they start figuring things out. They see that they're gathering the flecks. They see that these guys have no idea what the heck these are and how they work. They don't know anything about magnets and why on earth these flecks, which I believe are magnetite, and so they have their battle claws, and these battle claws are attracted to them because, again, they're magnetic. So they're attracting metals. That's what they do. But they have no idea what this does. They do know that if they eat them, they can prevent from being moon blinked. And they're also trying to, reason Soren's group is also going there to see if the Pure Ones have infiltrated them, which they have. And they find out this information. There ends up a battle in there. Soren and Griffey are eventually recognized. They're able to escape, but Soren is hurt. And they get basically to a hollow where they can be safe. This other young owl from the area called Hortense, who's not their original Hortense, shows up, realizes that Soren is dying because he's been injured, and there's an infection. But he also knows of the Eagles. So at first he knows Soren's going to die. He's leaving anyway, and then somehow he gets a trace of bravery and goes to them and tells him what's going on. And the Eagles recognize who the heck Soren is. They realize when they describe that he's friends with Griffey and a couple of other owls. So they get a snake who has 2 types of venom that are combined can essentially heal Soren. So along with Hortense, now going by Mist, they're able to heal Soren. And Mist tells them what she witnessed with Soren's brother and what they're planning to do, and lets them know. And Twilight's their other friends, able to figure out that basically they've gathered a whole bunch of barn owls and they're preparing for a basically war on the Gunghole, on the tree. So Soren and his friends get back. They inform their leaders, we need to prepare for war. So they start preparing for war, setting up different traps. They start using some of the vines from the tree to set up snares. Now this upsets this other owl who's been irritating. She, in fact, prior to the group's leaving, she harasses Odalissa and is forcing her to hunt for her and basically delays her from catching up with her group when they're supposed to be going off. So, and then why the group is gone, now she's getting mad at Odalissa for reading a book that Elzebub gave her to read. It's like, you need to kind of study this. And she's basically getting on her case about it. While they're gone, she gets rid of the book, and the teacher finds it, and he's all of a sudden suspicious. He knows that Odalissa, who's fictitious about books, would never throw it in the water, which is what happens to it. So there's somebody within the ranks that is leaking information. So the battle's going on. They win some, but they're under siege, which is that's the very end of this book. They're under siege. And he's very suspicious they're leaking information. And two of the other young owls of this group go to them. It's like, they're digging owls. They're burrowing owls. It's like, we can dig a tunnel out and basically attack from behind. And they tell this to the nurse snake. And that they find that they're friends with the Elzebub's been with for years. And she's like, you know what? Don't tell anybody. Stay here. I'm going to go get him because we're leaking information like crazy. So she goes to get him. They tell him their idea. He's like, yes, this is a fantastic idea, but I want to limit it to this very small group. We do not want to tell anybody else because, again, we're leaking information and we don't know who our spy is. He suspects who it is. So does another burrowing owl who's a little bit younger, but she's in charge of some of their burrowing efforts. And so they suspect her for leaking information. It's not fully explained if she's actually what she's doing, but she's obviously doing something suspicious, and they don't trust her. And she's said two comments like, it's sad that it's come to war. Now, she's a burrowing owl, so it's like she doesn't understand that these barn owls would probably kill her or use her, and she just doesn't seem to understand that. And she's an older owl and very obsessed with protecting this tree. So it takes them close to a month to dig this tunnel out. And Elzebub waits until the tunnel is almost like within a short period of time of being finished to summon everybody and their warriors. And they're on rations. They're thin. They're under siege. And he's like, okay, this is what we need to do. We can go out here and attack. And that's what they do. And unfortunately, their most powerful warrior is killed. Odalissa is with her. And you find a little bit of background as well about what happened with Cud here. Because you get some stories of his mate. Now, she found him and talked to him. She realized he was ruthless. And so you get the background of why he pushed his brother out. He just thought his brother was going to die. Of course, Soren didn't. He was captured and taken off to be a slave. And then, of course, he escapes. So, and she combines, basically, she's very committed to what they're doing. She's very evil. She gets Clud. She chooses him as a young mate. He is a great deal younger than her to an extent. Again, she's an adult owl when she fights him as a fledgling. So, they kill the original leader of the Pure Ones, put him in charge, because remember, he's just Soren's older brother. He's maybe a season or two older. He was barely flying when he pushed his brother out of the nest. So he's maybe a season or two older. So, Basically, they're combined. Her goal, essentially, again, these are owl versions of Nazis. This book makes it extremely clear what these guys are. They want the whole because they want the knowledge and they want a nest, and she wants to breed. She wants eggs. So it's like, we are the purest, we need to reproduce and form more like ourselves that are pure owls of the specific barn owl and specific area. So, again, they're owl Nazis. So, it is very, very clear that they are owl Nazis, and that's one of the reasons they're attacking them. And it's her that kills the chief fighter. And Odalessa attacks. And she's with her, and she scars her. And her and the two, what on earth is her name? This evil owl, female owl here. Nira. She's Claude's mate. And she and Clyde, of course, get away in the battle. And they win the battle, but again, this is leading up to more. So, obviously, because this is book 4 in, I think there's like 15 books, 14, 15 books in this book series. So, we're on 4. There's a lot more to do. So, that's essentially the end of the book. And you have the very end where they're mourning this other owl. Don't get fully clear on what on earth this other senior owl was doing, except that they no longer trust her. And if she was actually providing information, or at some point in time, this is what she'd done. But Odalessa's changed. I mean, she watched her mentor basically killed in battle. In many ways, she'd grown up and she attacked. And so she's deeply mourning. And then she has a conversation and she starts realizing at the very end, she has a conversation with Soren. She's like, we can't be on the defensive. We have to attack next time. They're going to come back. This is not over. And she's basically fundamentally writing, Soren catches her writing an attack plan. And it's also realized that Soren is starting to have dreams. He's starting to, during starlight hours, eventually not quite, probably right when they go to sleep or before they wake up, having basically premonitions, which is what Mist is doing as well. So the former Hortense, now going by Mist, also has sight. So they're able to essentially predict certain things that may come to be. And so it's very obviously Odalessa is planning, and she, as Soren walks away, is like, go, dream, see the future, see what we need to do and what may happen. So that's the end of this book. It's very, very interesting. This book series is getting very complex. And again, as I'm shooting these, I'm reading, so I don't know the future of these books, besides the fact that there is a giant battle incoming eventually. And there's a lot of different, this is essentially owl warfare. And it's very now obvious that there are Nazis involved, at least owl Nazis called the pure ones. Kind of makes sense here. So a very good book. This one, again, these guys aren't very long. So go back in here, see how long this one is in the actual pages. So it's about 197 pages, a little more than that. There's a couple paragraphs at the very end. So, sorry. I have a toddler, and this is New Year's Day. So we are officially in 2022. I'm building this, even though you guys will not see it until late 2023. I'm filming this literally on New Year's Day of 2022. So again, fireworks, toddlers, yeah, it's irritating. So, and of course I film at night. So again, back to this book series, still very good, very interesting, not very long. There is something I have found out recently that I may mention in my introduction is, unfortunately, print books seem to be out of fashion. So I went looking, and like my library in the last book, they didn't have. I go looking to see if it's still in print. It's not. It's only in ebook form. So I'm guessing that's the vast majority of this book series. You can no longer find it in book form, which is my preference, particularly when it comes to children's books. As I've said before, I prefer physical books, particularly for younger children, because this is a kids series. This is depending on the grade, middle, late middle school, or sorry, middle to late elementary, maybe middle school, depending. Reading level here. So I prefer physical books for that, but apparently the physical books aren't selling as much, so it's only being published in ebook form. So I will try to always recommend you trying to find things used if possible in physical book. Otherwise, you're stuck with the ebook. So that is it for this book review. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe. I will be finishing up this big series and adding more. You can check out the rest of what I've got. I've covered the Princess Diaries. I have quite a few Tamora Pierce books. I have dozens of books and films and all sorts of stuff. Again, I'm filming this in January of 2022, so I have a dozen things planned. Most of 2022 by this point was planned, and by the time you see this, the entire 2023 will be planned. It's just it's not planned as of the time of this shooting. Besides the fact that I'm covering the Princess Diaries, the Song of the Lioness Quartet, and the Wild Magic, and the Immortals Quartet Tamora Pierce. Those will all be coming out in 2023. Other book series I've covered, I did all of Tamora Pierce's Circle Opens and Circle of Magic quartets. Those were covered. You can check those out. I've also done John Flanagan's The Ranger's Apprentice book series and Joseph Delaney's The Last Apprentice series. That's more horror. Everything else is fantasy, along with dozens of other books. I cover children's books and teen books and nonfiction books, and we are secular homeschoolers, so I cover lots and lots of books, and I have a library degree, so again, we like books. So along with a variety of films. So be sure to check out my vast array of videos. I have a decent sized library by the time you guys see this, along with probably a few board games and some more educational stuff, and hopefully more travel stuff, because again, this is being filmed in January 2022. COVID is still a thing, and it's still raging, so we are hoping to get back to traveling soon. So again, like and subscribe. If you have a positive comment, leave one. I'm happy to see them, and I will try my best to respond if you guys have a question. Thank you.